Hi everyone, we're here again in my Real Food Kitchen. My name is Sarah, and today I'm sort of retreating back to a series I did on eggs because I got a special request from one of my book group mates. I often bring baked eggs to book group, and my friend Heather would like me to show her and all of you how I make baked eggs. So I am. So baked eggs are a really simple dish, but there are a couple things I think that make the difference between some ordinary baked eggs and some really yummy ones. And really it comes down to a choice of ingredients. And so I entertain a lot, and I had a dinner party on Friday night, and I have a leftover baguette. Today is Sunday, so this is from Friday, and that is perfect because a baguette's nice and, it has a nice crunchy crust anyway, but this is now a day and a half old, and so the bread is dried out and it's going to soak up the egg mixture very well, and yet it's not going to get mushy. So if you have an ordinary loaf of white bread or even like a whole wheat bread or whatever, and you cut it into cubes, it will work in a baked egg, but it tends to make kind of a spongy bottom, which I don't care for. So I recommend something that starts out good and crunchy in the first place and then let it get a day or two old. Then I'm going to cut this bread into little cubes about this size, about 1 inch. And then whatever your size bake dish, I'm going to use this, which is an enameled cast iron bake pan. But choose something that's on the higher side so that you can get all your ingredients in there. So some ordinary 9 by 13s might be a little too shallow. Anyway, then the first thing you do is line it generously with butter, which I've already done. And then you just need to cut up as many bread cubes as thoroughly cover the bottom of your pan. And maybe there can be a little bit of a second layer, but you don't want to go more than that. Basically, what you're just doing is providing a very simple crust for your egg dish. And then you need some kind of vegetable. I happen to have a bunch of cauliflower, again, left over from a different dinner party. And so I'm going to use cauliflower, but cauliflower in itself is not that flavorful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to saute it with some onion, and then I'm going to coat it with curry powder. And lately I've been roasting cauliflower florets coated in curry. It is so good. I've been eating those like candy, so it's kind of my favorite thing lately. And then you choose a cheese that goes with the vegetables that are in your baked eggs. And I think that cheddar goes well with cauliflower. And this happens to be a sharp cheddar, which I wouldn't have chosen if I didn't just have it around the house, because sharp cheddar is dry and aged, and so that means it doesn't melt quite as well as a younger cheese would. So if I were going to go to the store and buy it, I would buy a mild cheddar, but I have this in the house, so that's what I'm using. So what else? Then you need some eggs, and then here is my secret ingredient, which is cream. And I don't mean half and half. This is heavy cream. And that is the secret really to all of my egg dishes, is heavy cream. That's what makes them delicious. I hope I'm not horrifying anyone, but milk has too much water in it still. So when you put it in an egg dish, you end up with weepy kind of eggs. Not good. And I like my egg dishes to rise kind of like a souffle would, and you need cream for that. So cream, eggs, cheese, some kind of vegetable, the bread, and then I like to top my egg dishes with some fresh herbs because otherwise the surface is less pretty. So this happens to be a mixture of Italian parsley and cilantro, which I think will be nice with the curry. And then additionally, at the very end, I'm going to sprinkle some sumac on top too. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my onions and cauliflower sauteing, and when they're done, I'll show you what they look like, and then we'll make the custard together and proceed. Hi, so I just wanted to say a little bit about the vegetables that go into an egg bake. You can do all kinds of different vegetables. You can do spinach, fresh spinach, you can do peppers, you can do, this happens to be cauliflower, broccoli is delicious. But if you're going to do something denser, like cauliflower, it needs to be cooked first. And even spinach I would probably cook first because spinach has a lot of water in it. And you want to get that water cooked out before you put it in your egg dish, or once again, that water will make your eggs weepy. So now at this point, I'm going to add curry because I want the curry to cook a little bit, and I'm putting about 2 tablespoons in here, I would say. I'll see how I feel about that in a second. Might add a little more. Yeah, a little more. And then I know I've talked to you about spices before too, but I like to keep near my stovetop and my workplace little containers of spices like this, containing the spices I use the most, and I keep them in small amounts, and they're always very fresh. And I don't buy my spices in large amounts, I buy them in small amounts, and I buy them at the co-op where I feel like the spices are very fresh. They haven't been sitting on the counter for years. And then I buy them in small amounts, use them, and buy fresh. Okay, so now I feel like the cauliflower is cooked enough. If I had put it in the egg bake raw, there's no way it would have cooked inside the egg bake to a nice tender consistency. And now all I'm really doing is I'm letting the curry cook a little bit. So I'll let this go for another minute or so, and then I'm going to layer it over the bread cubes that I put in the bottom of the pan. All right, so you can see how I've got the bread cubes layered in the bottom of the pan. They're just covering the bottom. And now I'm going to spread my cauliflower over the bread cubes. And this, by the way, ended up being raw. It was about 3 cups of cauliflower, and now that it's cooked, it's probably 2 cups of cauliflower. So I would say you need 2 cups of cooked vegetables for your egg bake. All right, so now the next thing we're going to put in is the cheese. And this is about 1.5 cups. I would say, of cheddar. And now, as far as the custard, for this size pan, which is a 9 by 13 on the deep side, I used a dozen eggs and 2 cups of heavy cream. Pour that over everything. And looking at it, I wanted to completely cover the ingredients. I'd say that's not enough. So I'm going to quickly whisk another 6 eggs and probably 1 cup of heavy cream, and I'll be back to you. All right, so that did the trick. That was another 6 eggs and another cup of cream. And now everything is in the custard. And the last couple of things are, we're going to sprinkle that Italian parsley and cilantro. It's about 2 to 1, 2 parts Italian parsley, 1 part cilantro. And then over that, I'm going to sprinkle some sumac, which you've been hearing me talk about. One of my favorite new spices. Well, it's not new. People have been using it a long, long time, but it's new to me, and I love it. All right, so now this is ready to go in the oven. I have the oven set at 400 degrees. It's already been preheating. I'm going to put this in there for about 20 minutes at 400. I'm going to set the timer, and then I'm going to turn it down to 350. That heat will make it rise up, kind of souffle-like, and then turning it down and cooking it a little bit slower will make sure the eggs get done. I'll pull it out of the oven when I think it's done, and then I'll show you how I test for doneness. We're back. I turned it down to 350 after 20 minutes at 400, and then it only took another 20 minutes to get done. And I usually just give it a poke with a knife, and you know, if raw egg comes to the surface when you do that, it's not quite done. But to be perfectly honest, while I think this is fine, I would like this to have been a little softer than it is. But my cameraman and I went into the other room and had a glass of wine and got to talking. And I think it might be 5 minutes beyond what I would prefer. But I also like my eggs really soft. But the fact is, because this is so dense, it's going to keep cooking in this cast iron pot for another 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. So it might actually get to the point where I consider it overdone. It's going to be delightful. It's going to be delicious. I'm being fussy. But so I would say that after you turn the temperature down to 350, 15 minutes tops, and it'll be done. But you see how nicely it's risen like a souffle, and the edges are nice and crunchy. That's the butter that does that. But it'll come out of the pan really easily because of that butter too. But doesn't it look beautiful? All right, so the baked egg dish is done. Perhaps a little bit overdone, but looks and smells amazing. And normally at this point, I would go into my pantry and get one of my really cute pottery dishes, dish up a little bit for you to see, and that would end up being a still image at the end of our video. But this is coming with me to my friend Zoran's house tonight. So it's staying intact, sorry. But Heather, this is for you. I hope that it was helpful, and it's my gift to you. Lots of love, Sarah.